I want to bring in Veronica Nigh, who's an economist from the American Farm Bureau. Hi, Veronica. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
As I mentioned, President Trump signing that Phase 1 trade deal with China on Wednesday. Can you tell us more about how farmers specifically who are part of your group will benefit from this agreement?
Well, certainly. So it's no question that China has been an important export market for U.S. agriculture. Over 20% of U.S. ag production is exported. So when the Chinese market went from a $20 billion market to about $9 billion, certainly farmers and ranchers felt that hit. The new agreement promises to increase exports by $12.5 billion in 2020 over the 2017 baseline, which was around $19.5 billion. So that would put $32 billion in U.S. ag products going out the door to the Chinese economy. That's certainly a big boost. That would be potentially very large sales for a wide variety of ag products.
Veronica, you mentioned the hit that farmers took as we were negotiating that Phase 1 trade deal with China, and the president has faced criticism for using tariffs as a negotiating tool, many saying that those tariffs did ultimately hurt farmers. How has the Trump administration, though, supported U.S. farmers in the wake of that to lift some of the pressure off of them?
You know, I think it's important that everyone know that U.S. agriculture, farmers and ranchers account for less than 2% of the U.S. population and about a similar amount of U.S. ag total exports. So even though we play a fairly minor role in the total export picture, almost all of U.S. ag products that were destined for the Chinese market faced additional tariff over the last 18 months up through today. So certainly we've seen a disproportionate impact on U.S. agriculture compared with the rest of the economy. Again, going from China being a $20 billion market down to 8 or 9, that's a big hit. And while farmers were able to find some new markets for some of those products, U.S. ag exports certainly took a hit. So the USDA, at the president's request, designed a market facilitation program in 2018 and 2019 that tried to offset some of those losses that farmers were experiencing from the sales that were lost because of the retaliatory tariffs. And certainly those programs have been helpful for farmers and ranchers to try to survive, to help their balance sheets and help cash flow issues. But farmers and ranchers over and over again have repeated that we would rather get our income from the market rather than from the government. So this agreement signed yesterday, the USMCA passing today, and lest we forget the US-Japan agreement going into effect the 1st of January, all three of those agreements should certainly help put farmers and ranchers back in the business of making export sales on their merit, and rather than needing some government programs in order to survive the shortfall that we've experienced the last couple of years.
And Veronica, you mentioned the USMCA. That is definitely seen as a big win for farmers in the U.S., especially with the dairy access to Canada's market for U.S. farmers specifically. That deal approved by the Senate today. How will this change the trading relationship with Canada and Mexico for farmers here at home?
Well, farmers and ranchers would generally, I think, describe the NAFTA agreement. While we know the president wasn't terribly fond of that agreement, I think we would generally describe it as maybe an A- deal. But with that agreement having been in effect more than 20 years, certainly there are things that have occurred in both of our economies over the years that you would like to improve the rules of trade. The USMCA does that. It reduces some of the transaction costs for exports. It'll allow our products to cross the borders more expeditiously. And as you mentioned, it also provides some additional market access for dairy products, for poultry, for eggs into the Canadian market. And probably on the dairy side, most importantly, it eliminates Canada's Class 7 milk pricing system, which was allowing the Canadian dairy sector to have subsidized exports that were competing against U.S. exports in a limited product range. So eliminating that unfair competition should allow us to not only do better in the Canadian market, but have more equal footing in a lot of other markets for dairy products as well.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.